Hey everyone, it's Rosin, and I have yet another post-commentary highlight reel episode of Let's Play Elden Ring for you to enjoy. Once again, attempting to defeat Malenia here, and spoiler alert, as I'm sure you probably guessed by now, did not succeed. Now, I have about 3 hours worth of attempts boiled down to, like, I want to say this is like, in the last 30 minutes of that, I took like 4 of my best runs against the boss and decided just to condense it down. Truth be told, I actually don't know how much I have to say for this video, but I thought it was important to document this part of the playthrough, even just in this form, even if I don't have a lot to say, because I just wanted to show that I got a lot more confident, and especially fighting with this first form. And I feel like I started to make maybe a little bit of progress going through her Goddess of Rot phase. Like, see right there, I was just like, okay, she's gonna waterfowl dance. Got the fuck out of there. Dodging this pretty clean. Took a little bit of damage, but you know, overall, doing fairly fine. I'm being a lot more cautious. I'm a lot better at judging her movement patterns, I say, as I get hit from a attack I should not have been hit by. But, you know, overall, I feel like my play here is a lot cleaner, and I'm making less mistakes, and I know when to go in, when to kind of back down, and wait for her to use specific attacks and stuff like that before I go in. You can feel the hours of escalation and improvement that I went through. And again, I greatly appreciate having both of these, like, damage proc weapons that just make this possible with my current build. Definitely dual wielding is the way to go. I just need that high degree of damage. And see, there you go, she went for the waterfowl dance, and I was like, oh, nope, I'm gonna end this phase right here. And we'll see how long I lasted here in the second phase. Still have a lot to learn when it comes to the Goddess of Rot phase. Whenever she gets into this phase, I'm still getting really jittery and nervous, and, you know, that's half the battle sometimes. I was listening to a podcast recently with someone who said something like, there's, like, a lot of the time when you need to, like, improve, like, form or behavior or something when you're trying to do a skill, something that a lot of people don't really take into consideration is the fact that a lot of experts, the part of the difference is that they're just so comfortable that they keep their body loose, they don't tense up, they don't feel that degree of paralyzing fear that makes them hesitate, that makes them overthink decisions. And, you know, as someone who, I guess this is getting more personal, I didn't think I'd be talking about this, but as someone who kind of has a degree of anxiety just throughout my general being, I do think sometimes that is something when I am even playing video games or working with some hobbies, I have a tendency to have a little bit of a nervous mind and overthink things and all that. So I feel like as I get more comfortable with the boss fight, just I'll be able to make better educated decisions in the heat of the moment. And I'll start to loosen up and just be able to go with the flow of the fight a little bit better. That being said, I did decide to not continue down this route fighting Malenia. I decided to move on, make a little bit more progress with the game. As I noted, I want to say in the last study session video I did fighting her, I could do with upgrading my flasks, and I feel like even just a little bit like of a higher level character, you know, just a few stat gains, I think could make all the difference. And we'll see what goes, you know, how things go from there. I don't even think my weapons are all the way leveled or upgraded. I can't remember if by this point I had them all the way upgraded or not. And again, it's been a little bit since I've returned to the game. We are getting very, very close. I'm recording this January 22nd. We are getting very close to the point where I stopped recording, because I have not played Elden Ring since I've moved into my new place, and that was like November of last year, so we're getting very close to me catching up and being contemporary with my footage, and I don't like that. I want to have a buffer, so we will, I'm gonna finally get back to Elden Ring, I think, this week sometime after work, and it'll be good to be back. I'm sure I'm gonna have a lot of, you know, growing pains and getting refamiliar with the controls and all that, and honestly, I barely remember what I was doing or planning on doing at the time. So we will, you know, have to go back through and figure that out, but excited to get back to it. I'm ready to wrap up this playthrough, I feel, but just because I'm saying that now, that doesn't mean that there aren't many parts to come yet. I'm curious what the final episode count is going to be for this playthrough. And yeah, I'm still not dodging towards her when she does that flurry of blows, and I really should be. But I'm getting pretty good at that lunge dodge, I feel, and even these like sweeps. She has a little bit of unique and slightly awkward like delayed timing on some of her attacks, but really, after hours of doing this fight, they will become second nature to you if you're paying attention for them. And I still get hit by stray hits every now and again like there, but you just can't let mistakes like that get you down. And you just gotta, again, go with the flow and take them as they come. And look for opportunities like that to deal massive damage. See, because the other thing, too, is when she's frostbitten like this, you really want to go in and take advantage of the defense debuff. But you just can't do that with this fight. You just need to wait for her to use her attack and then react to it. From my experience, at least. I'm sure that there's some expert in the comments that knows how to do this fight, completely naked with, like, the worst weapon in the game or whatever, but I am not that player, so I don't know the fight this well. Again, still have not beaten this boss fight as of me recording this all these months later, so... I'm itching to get back to her, though. I know I have it in me to win this fight, I just need to do it. See, like, even right here, I do appreciate that this second phase does not start at full health, but yeah, look at this. Look at this. What a ridiculous attack. And when you think you can get an attack, a hit in right after, she just comes out swinging. Terrifying. And yeah, you gotta be careful with when you heal, because that can happen, and then she just finished me right off. Ah, terrifying. Terrifying boss fight. Honestly, I will say, I guess since we're going to the second half of the video here, and I'm, again, already kind of running out of things to say, there's part of me that wonders if From went maybe a little bit too... I think FromSoftware got a little lost in the sauce with designing this fight, and again, I want to admit that I'm playing this game in a suboptimal way on purpose because that is what I find fun. That being said, it does bum me out a little bit that I could go through the rest of the game doing that and feel like I'm having quite a fair challenge and quite a good time, and then getting to this boss fight and getting a little bit frustrated because I feel like I'm suddenly being demanded perfection. That being said, again, this is a hell of my own design. I'm playing this way on purpose. When I could be taking advantage of so many different resources and tools and other opportunities in the game to make this fight easier on myself. But, I don't know, there is part of me that feels like maybe this fight could have been loosened up a little bit. I had a conversation with a friend who's really big into the From games or whatever, and the conclusion we kind of came to, and he is someone that does like a lot of like, challenge runs or speed runs of these types of games, and is very, very well versed in FromSoftware games. And even he playing through was kind of like, yeah, I think that Malenia they kind of just went a little bit too far to the too difficult direction. It just is a little bit too demanding to the point that it's honestly kind of not fun. The fight is cool from like a visual standpoint, even like a narrative standpoint, from what I understand of her character and kind of her place in the world so far. I think all of that's great. I think this arena is great. I think her design for both phases is great. But mechanically speaking, I think that maybe this is just a step too far from what I want from these types of games. And I almost feel like, well, okay, so, sorry, I didn't finish my thought from my conversation with my friend who's really good at these games. The conclusion we kind of came to is that it almost feels like the fight would be completely fine if she had either Waterfowl Dance or the vampiric attacks that, like, heal her every time that you take damage. But having both is just a ridiculous combination, and maybe makes the fight a little too extreme in its own way. And again, I just feel like I keep having to caveat this because I think that Elden Ring, I feel like, is the game that FromSoftware kind of went out of its way to push back against the types of hardcore players that really don't want to use a lot of the tools in the game because they feel like it's cheesing the game or whatever, which is, you know, obviously a fan-made community term that really has no weight on the actual design of the game. I don't think FromSoftware is as anal and hardcore about that sort of thing as a lot of their player base is, and I feel like Elden Ring really pushes into the, you know, leans into the fact that you should be summoning Spirit Ashes, you should be using the quote-unquote cheesier stuff to help you get through the game. And you know, that's just part of the intended design. You know, these games will not have all of this plethora of options if you weren't supposed to use them. You know, just because there are people like me that find it very rewarding and satisfying to play these games in a particular way, that absolutely doesn't mean that these games should be designed with people like me in mind. In fact, I think they shouldn't. I think that we get so much more benefit when we have all those options available to players to create interesting builds and fall in love with their characters and play how they want to play, even if that means choosing character options and paths that would maybe, for players like me, be a little bit more boring or less engaging, you know. But there's a lot of people that play these games and they have a shit ton of fun throwing fireballs at a distance and managing those resources and playing the range game and not getting in too close to the bosses. And I think that is completely valid, and I think something that we should be celebrating with these games too is that they work playing through them in so many different ways. So, you know, when I get to walls like this, that there are easier routes to take on the climbing wall to get up and surmount it, and I choose not to take them because I want to be a big man and prove to myself that I can take the harder route. You know, I guess at the end of the day what I want to say is that when I vent about maybe this fight being a little too difficult in my opinion, which is probably an opinion that should be taken with a grain of salt, because I'm just making this way more difficult than it really has any right to be, so... But yeah, like, look at this. I feel really happy with how down pat I have this first phase. And oh yeah, that was a good attack right after her falling down there too. And see, you know, to close out the first phase, I don't mind going for like a random jumping attack or something like that here. Get away from the flower. Don't want to get Scarlet Rot. Time to flask up. And you can see here I decided to swap out what order my weapons were in because I just kind of... Or actually, sorry, I swapped out what exactly I was using, rather. Because I was just like, you know, Bloodhound Step probably going to serve me better here. And I think that's just a better decision. But yeah, we still haven't beaten the Malenia. Yay! See you next time.